DW AfricaLink.
Imagine a country where corruption no longer drains money from hospitals, roads, and public services. Is that even possible? After decades of battling corruption, Ghana is trying once again to turn the tide. The government has launched a new National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Action Plan for 2026 to 2030. But Ghana has been down this road before. So what's different this time? And if it works, what could it mean for citizens? That's what's coming up. I am Eddie Micah Jr., and you are welcome to AfricaLink, the podcast connecting you to the stories that matter.
AfricaLink, every weekday here on DW.
In Ghana, a new anti-corruption action plan is now on the table, promising reform from 2026 to 2030. Now, while that's good news, previous anti-corruption bodies have often been underfunded, watchdogs have struggled to do their jobs, and even the Office of the Special Prosecutor has at times been weakened by frustration and resignation. So a plan is only as strong as the political will behind it, right? Let's get more from Mary Awelanada, the Executive Director of Transparency International Ghana Chapter, and DW's Eric Mawena-Egbeta. Hello, both of you. Welcome to AfricaLink. Mary, it's a good thing that Ghana is trying to fight corruption, right? But tell us, how big is Ghana's corruption problem?
Let me start by saying that corruption problem in Ghana is a very large one. It's been very costly to the state. It is endemic and systemic in nature. I say so because if you look at the evidence that we have per the Corruption Perception Index and other indices, over the past years, 6 or so from 2020, you would realize that Ghana has either been stagnating or remain at the same level for continuous 4 years until just 2025 when we made 1 point. And so it's an existential challenge, if I may say. Again, I say so because looking at the data and evidence from the Auditor General's report, indication is that more than 18 billion Ghana cedis go into financial irregularities as of year ending of the financial year 2024, meaning that this problem, even though audits would not conclusively be corruption, but in many of the instances you would have some irregularities that are related to either procurement or corruption related. And so it is a big challenge for us.
You talk about 18 billion Ghana cedis. We're talking about over €1 billion or dollars. That's a lot of money. At the end of the day, all of this is affecting or impacting individual lives, isn't it?
Sure, certainly. This is affecting individual lives. It's costing the states. And if I may reference, unfortunate as it may be, yesterday's floods, these are some of the evidence of the cost of corruption in our daily lives. When the public officer sits aloof and watches the wrong thing happen, when we have low quality of roads being constructed because some people have taken some fees or percentages which we all are aware of, when we have inter-elite bargains take over the social interventions and the development programs we are supposed to be seeing, when we see the quality of drugs that are supposed to be given to patients in our hospitals not at the same quality as we should have, then certainly the cost of corruption is huge on society.
So why is there so much corruption in Ghana? Is this just innate in all people? Is this just the norm? Is it part of culture? What's driving it?
primarily, the issues around corruption would have to do with weak governance and accountability failures, bluntly. We see this is reinforced by political incentives and also the tolerance of corruption and the behaviors that we put up that accept this in Ghana. We have the laws, we also have the institutions, but enforcement remains inconsistent. Sanctions are very weak, and the powerful actors or the elites in our system are always insulated from the consequences of corruption.
Right. Thank you so much. Very well broken down for us. And I know, Mawena, you've been listening to this. Ghana is trying to fight corruption. And so the current government is introducing National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Action Plan. Tell us more about that and what is the plan promising to deliver? How is it supposed to work?
Right. So, Eddie, the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Action Plan, it's a 5-year framework essentially designed to promote integrity, transparency, and accountability both in public and then private spaces. It's the government's efforts to rationalize certain actions across a number of fronts, also feeding from a 10-year plan which existed between 2015 and 2024. So there was a national corruption anti-corruption plan between 2015 and 2025, which was 10 years. And the mandates around the fight against corruption in that 10-year plan centered largely around the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Now, since then, there's been the Office of the Special Prosecutor, which has come into action as well. Also, another important institution aimed at helping to fight and deal with corruption within both public and then private spaces as well. And so what this new anti-corruption plan is seeking to do is to co-opt all of the agencies responsible in terms of fighting against corruption and detailing a pathway through which they can harmonize efforts and ensure that the fight against corruption is dealt a hefty blow and, if possible, a decisive blow as well. That is what is being put together.
Is that plan already in action? Or does it need some extra approval to get to work? But also, are people confident in this? Because this is not the first time Ghana has set up such a plan or a type of plan to fight corruption, is it?
So in terms of approvals, the president himself announced that it's received blessings from cabinet. And so the expectation is that it will make its way to Parliament because it's undergone consultation. And so the added benefit, if we can call it that, is that persons within civil society in the fight against corruption have played some roles this time around in putting it together. And the understanding I got, at least from speaking to one of the persons who played a role in putting this plan together, is that lessons are being learned from the previous plan, which to a lot of persons did not achieve such great results. And these lessons are being co-opted into this new plan, which is one of the reasons why we're seeing a 5-year plan and not a 10-year plan, so that it's not so long and cannot be reviewed amongst other things. In terms of confidence, for one, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. I have to be very honest about it. In my organization where I work, when news came that the president had announced that a cabinet had approved the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Plan, the first question which was asked by a lot of people was, what difference does this make? We've seen that 10-year plan. What difference did it make? What will this one also make?
Thanks for that, Mawena. And that's a question I'm definitely going to pose to you, Mary, because considering that corruption has been a major problem for decades in Ghana. So, indeed, people are right to question if this National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Action Plan is really going to work. You've looked into it. What makes it different this time, and could it work?
I believe that the reservations are expected, and the citizens' apathy in plans and frameworks also is not new. Judging by some of the implementation benchmarks we have seen from the past. In the new document framework, which I must say I was part of the development process. I worked on the bigger team, on also the various working groups. And so in this development, and even we went on to also do some extrapolations as to how we could identify some funding windows to ensure that we do not just present a document, but we would have some dedicated funding set aside to ensure implementation and its effectiveness. I must say that we hit the wall on those extrapolations, but we are not giving up. We met with the president to present to him what we were thinking that would make this plan very effective. But let me say that one of the clear issues that is standing out in this plan is the fact that there is a heavy leaning on ethics. So instead of just the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, this time around, we are naming it the National Ethics and Anti-Corruption Action Plan. So there is a need to reorient and also bring the subject matter of ethics and integrity into the anti-corruption discourse.
What is the challenge here? And what about this deal that you now say have been involved in putting up? What about it makes it different from the other ones in terms of how it can be properly enforced?
So let me quickly say, by rounding up on the other one, is the fact that in this plan, before I answer the next question, in this plan, care was taken to put in place serious benchmarks for measuring targets. And then there are various groupings put in place to also ensure independent monitoring, and then public reporting and consequence structures. And I must say that we also have put in place some very stringent regimes that would have to put together by Parliament some laws to ensure that these sanctions are not just talked about. Is there something broken about structurally about frameworks that we document in Africa? Many are not as broken in design alone, if I may say. They are mostly weakened by the politics, which does not allow for effective implementation, effective sanctioning, and effective monitoring of the process.
That's very well said. So what's preventing politics from destroying this one too?
Great. That will be the will of the people, and that will has been put together. So as I indicated before, the politics can continue to influence, but our president has indicated that this has become a number one agenda for him. And as early as last week, he mentioned it again at the Ghana Civil Society Forum, where we convened and invited him, and he was part of us. So what would make this different is for myself, civil society, you in the media, and every other actor to be part of this. What would make this different is for our anti-corruption institutions to remain independent, and we are the people who can call for this to happen, for adequate resources, which we are calling for protection of our institutions from political interference to be guaranteed. If that is done, then we can all sit back and then monitor this process and say, yes, even though problems have been encountered in the past, but when the citizens arise and when the citizens put together the measuring indicators we have all decided to put together, and when governments resource these institutions as they have promised to do, and we will continue to follow up when it comes to budgets and appropriation, then we would be seeing the difference we want to see when it comes to implementation.
Right. Thank you very much, Mary. Mawena, I guess the challenge to all of this is that this is going to, if it's properly enforced, it is likely to affect or impact, I don't know, possibly people in government, members of parliament, people that are working at the highest level for the country. So I guess my question is there a sense that people generally realize that corruption is a problem and together they really want to fight this, even if it goes against them somehow, talking about the opposition, those in power, and all hands on deck? Is that the feeling you're getting?
When the current administration was in opposition, they hammered on the fact that corruption had become endemic and we weren't improving in our corruption perception index. Now that the positions have changed, you find the persons who were in government some 2 years ago will begin to sing the same chorus as was being sung by persons who were in opposition and are now in government now. It so happens that when they are in opposition, they see everything that's wrong with corruption and they use it as a whip against the party in government. But when they assume the reins of power, the narrative changes. So far, we've been promised an Operation Recover All Loot, which is supposed to deal with matters in relation to corruption and prosecute officials who've engaged in corruption. The government has promised a conduct of public officers bail as well, which is supposed to safeguard against abuse by public officers in terms of matters in relation to corruption and all of that. That bill is also yet to see the light of day, and I believe Madam Ada will have a bit more in terms of details about that and the inner workings from within the government, where there's expectation that the Attorney General will table something before Parliament and all of that. There is a consensus that corruption is bad. It steals away from the public purse and all of that. What has been lacking is the political will to effectively deal with it once and for all. The president has been reiterating he wants to do it. It still remains a wait and see approach in terms of the actuals and having a lot of these juicy promises manifest to the benefits of the citizenry.
At the end of the day, does it work out? But, I'll take the confidence that Mary and, partly from you're putting into this one. We'll have to wait and see really how this works. But as we wrap this up, Mary, final words from you. What would genuine success look like if we revisit this in the next 5 years?
For us, by 2030, we would want to see some measurable reductions in corruption risk and vulnerabilities across sectors, and improvement significantly in enforcement. So for me, we would want to see success look like the number of prosecutions that have gone through. Whether they are successful or not, we want to see the prosecutions go through. So government is currently implementing or in court with some oral cases. There are investigations going on, and we have embedded some of these great interventions according to our plan in a sector where we call enforcement. So where enforcement is, we're looking at investigations, we are looking at prosecutions, and we are looking at sanctions. So we would want to see if we are setting indicators, the number of cases that have been investigated, post-regime and in-regime accountability for us is what we want to see. We want to see fewer audit irregularities. We want to see stronger procurement compliance, particularly now that we have a value for money law and a value for money office that has been set up to ensure that procurement infractions are minimized. This is one of the things we said we would do. We would want to see an asset declaration regime, which we call the Conduct of Public Officers Bill that has been in Parliament for a long time being passed. And therein, we see public officers' assets and liabilities being declared and verified before they take office, and also when they exit office, or whichever comes first. We would want to see a transparent political financing regime, which is another key point we have put in the plan. We also would want to see a functional beneficial ownership, transparency or disclosure regime to ensure that we prevent and avoid the issues of fronting when it comes to doing business and also promoting integrity in the business sector. These and a number of other issues would have to come up, but we would want to see a citizenry who is more empowered and more vociferous, speaking against corruption, reporting corrupt deeds and acts, and ensuring that we follow through with monitoring to ensure that corruption, the consequences of corruption are high and not as low as they are now.
Consequences of corruption have not been high, and so people just get away with it because, they say nothing is going to happen to them. So that would be interesting to follow. I've really learned a lot from this, and I really do hope that this really hits different from previous other ways of tackling corruption. So many thanks to you both. Mary Awela Naada, the Executive Director of Transparency International Ghana Chapter, and DW's Eric Mawen-Egbeta. Many thanks to you both.
Thank you as well for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Get the stories that are shaping the continent here on AfricaLink.
The current government campaigned on accountability, but can it move from promises on paper to action in practice? Ghanaians weigh in.
This issue of corruption has always crippled the Ghanaian society for a very long time. It is embedded in our nature. And so a national civic education program, if started by the government, would train the Ghanaian populace on these things by principle so that eventually we as a nation will move together with it. Because the idea that, I have a friend here, the idea of protocol, the idea I have somebody here who would make or fast track a process for me and I wouldn't have to join the normal process, that is an issue. So we hope that the government would implement these things.
The plan is a positive step because a country needs a clear strategy for fighting corruption. But Ghana's biggest challenge right now has really been the absence of plans or laws. That is, it has been ensuring that those plans are enforced consistently. Therefore, the real test will be whether the government can demonstrate measurable results, recovering stolen assets, prosecuting corruption cases, improving transparency, and maybe reducing opportunities for corruption over the next few years.
And ultimately, fighting corruption is not just about creating new policies. It's about building a culture where integrity is rewarded, public institutions are independent, and accountability is applied consistently. And if this plan achieves that, then it could have a lasting impact. If not, it will become another document with good intentions but limited results, like the many other ones we have.
Although we cannot generalize and categorize all of them as the doers, that is the government, all right? However, its effectiveness or ability to reduce corruption in the country is dependent on the strict and supervision and the commitment and the integrity involved in that implementation, right? When they are very, very transparent and have enough integrity to initiate this solely without any bias or any consideration nor exception, then indeed this is going to reduce corruption in the country, and the victims will also be relieved.
Ghana knows what corruption costs. It also knows what needs to be done. But will it be done the right way? The real measure of success will be whether Ghanaians feel the impact in their schools, hospitals, businesses, and communities. What do you think? Share your thoughts on Facebook at DW Africa. Listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Kaleji. And I am Eddie Micah Jr. Thanks for listening.
DW. Made for mind.